because looking for work is so expensive. The reason she kept the plastic sleeve is because she doesn't want to go spend one more rand recycling and buying new plastic sleeves. Plastic sleeve! That's how bad things are.
Welcome to the Hustlers Corner. We're going into South Africa's elections 2024 and we are a few months away. Are you going to stand up and do something, or are you going to be everybody else who's complaining on social media? I'm sitting with somebody who decided, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to rally around some of my friends, we'll collaborate and we'll start some sort of a movement. Let's do something about what is going on in the country. Some people are saying there's a leadership vacuum. Some people are saying, 2024 is our 1994, as their slogan says as well. But what excites me is that this person is not only an activist or an activist, but is an entrepreneur, and he's founded businesses before. Let me give you guys his actual profile. He's a successful business professional, a creative entrepreneur, and social activist. He has worked at various levels in leading investment banking, management consulting, private equity, ICT, and insurance companies, primarily in business development, marketing, and sales. Whilst working in corporate South Africa, he founded Young Professionals Association and Bokamoso Cross Mentorship Programme, which he led for about 12 years. How? Dude, you look 21. He has founded several businesses and thrives on building new organizations through ideation, strategy, visioning, and partnership development. Holds a BCom Economics and Law degree from UCT, where he also served as Treasurer General in the Student Representative Council. He also holds an MBA degree. How old are you, bro? From the Gordon's Institute of Business Science in Johannesburg. We call them GIBS, specializing in entrepreneurship, and he was born Kokasi, Soweto, and is passionate about the creative sector. Welcome, bro.
How are you, my king?
I'm blessed, my brother. How are you doing?
Strong.
Hey, what's fun, Mr. Moalusi?
Hey,
Guys, would like to welcome Mr. Tebogo Moalusi to the Hustlers Corner.
Thank you, Sbu. I appreciate the opportunity, and good day to everyone.
Kelly, you drink lots of water or you don't touch alcohol?
No, you got to dabble here and there. I'm blessed with great genes. So, I'm a descendant of the sand. And, as the oldest people of the planet, they have something to tell us about how to survive harsh conditions. So, kitty genes in fit.
Yeah.
I'm just blessed.
So this is your profile, and we want to say thank you to Baholo, and congratulations, guys. He's become something incredible. He's done something amazing with his life. He's not only, I think, a role model to your family, but I think to a lot of young people in the country with a lot of the work that he's been able to do. I've summarized it on my phone through this profile, but I'd like for you to tell me from the horse's mouth, who's Debs? I mean, what's your story?
Yeah. Debs ake auchakukazi. As you read, ke kgoletse ko Mfolo, and I've had the blessing and the opportunity to live in different spaces in Gauteng. Ke kgoletse Soweto, I've lived in Zirbakom, which was a jarring reality because at the time, Maburu ne ba tshwere da. So moving from Kasi to literally a small holding of agricultural owners was an interesting time. I've lived in Fourways, I've studied in UCT, I've traveled abroad. So all of those experiences have shaped, the person that I am. But one of the things that has also defined who I am today is the fact that I'm a husband and a father of two. And I guess we'll talk about this a little bit more, but it has kind of urged me and pushed me in thinking a lot more about the future outside of Tebogo, the person. What kind of future do I want to make sure that I hand over to my kids? Earlier on, I sit and stand on the shoulders of giants. My parents are both still alive, both still married, thank goodness. And, I'm privileged. And therefore, what's important is how do I leverage and use that privilege to serve my family, my community, and South Africa at large. But I'm a hustler. As you read the bio, I've worked in different sectors. I've built skills. I've built big organizations, made people a lot of money, not myself yet, but we will talk about that later. But at the heart of it, I'm someone who wants to solve problems, someone who's not happy with the status quo, and really believes that creativity is our superpower as Africans. And I want to tap into that in elevating our status as a people.
Now, before we get into Rise Mzansi, let's talk about your passion in entrepreneurship. Like, what was your first business, or How qeta skela o ile o gelezitse eng, and what was your gateway into
Yeah.
the working world in this country?
Yeah. So I went to UCT. I actually wanted to be a chartered accountant, but failed maths and failed accounting. And it became clear that Imuna, you need to kind of pivot here. So graduated with economics and law, and then started working in the corporates that you have mentioned. But my first business was in marketing, brand, and events. A company called La Dolce Vita Lifestyle Events with 6 of my other partners, and it was just about curating groove.
I think I remember that name.
Yeah, it was dope, man. It was on Sundays, and there's something mysterious about Sundays, because you want to go out, but you don't want to press too much, but then you end up going wild anyway if it's a dope time. So learned a lot. We ran that business for about 8 years. But we didn't make a lot of money, but we learned a lot about the fundamentals of building good organizations. And I take those lessons through all the spaces that I occupy.
And then the next business?
The next business was in a family business where we went into renewable energy. So we currently are invested in that space. So looking at kind of solar and wind solutions for the country, essentially. But it was also a management consulting business. So how do we offer solutions that activate people to perform at their highest level? I've got a sneaker brand that called Block Footwear. Yakukasi, born and bred from a guy called Gift Sitole from Mufolo. A customizable sneaker. We were actually one of the sponsors for the Netball World Cup that we recently had.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, built a number of businesses. Some of them have failed. Many of them have failed, actually, which is a good thing in a way, because I think it's helped kind of, move me into the right directions and sharpen my axe in terms of, how I operate in the world of business.
In this hustling game, as you move and you keep starting businesses here and there, or you start opportunities here and there. In my past, I've been one of those people who've been ignorant. You partner with people and you're like, let's go for this opportunity. The partnership doesn't happen anymore. A few months down the line, you forget to go deregister the company or resign from it. So a couple of years later, it caught up with me, where I think the government on the other side, when they look at your name, you are affiliated with so many companies.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's actually not the actual true reflection of what you represent. You're probably just a part of 1 or 2 companies.
Indeed.
And also tax issues. I've had my own fair share in the past, and having been advocating for entrepreneurship, I think myself to blame. I haven't been one of those people to speak up about tax as far as young entrepreneurs is concerned. And those are some of the mistakes that we make as business owners. What are some of the things that you wish you could have done differently when you were starting out, as opposed to what you've become, or some of the hurdles that you've had to overcome because you might have made certain wrong decisions in the past?
Yeah, I think there's 2 that I'd like to mention. The first is the value of time. I think, we underestimate time as a currency, and therefore you give your time to people who waste it, and therefore you slow down your progress. So the more you honor your time, the more prepared you become for interactions that you have with partners, with customers, with stakeholders. So over time, I've had a much better relationship with my time. Which also means I protect my energy and I protect that which is valuable to me. When you give people their time, just like how you're giving me yours.
You're giving me your time. And thank you.
And the viewers.
I think the hustlers appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you, hustlers. You never get that time back. It's the one thing that is a sunk cost for every second that passes. And so valuing time allows you to start valuing yourself and your contribution. So that's the first. The second is the discipline and the commitment of following through. I think the tendency is to want to travel the path least traveled and go, the path of least resistance. But actually hard work matters. You can have the greatest ideas, you can have great partners, but at the end of the day, you just got to do the graft, shapaspani boy. And it takes time for things to come to the stage at which you can sometimes see success. They say in business, whenever you have an idea, it takes 3 times longer than you think, and it's 4 times as expensive. So you have to have that as part of your thinking when you start something out, that your budget was initially 400 Rand. It's likely going to end up being 1,600 Rand, for example. And if you think you're going to start it in 6 months, it's probably going to pop off in 2 years. So give yourself the time and the discipline to walk through the pains until you get to a point where you can achieve success.
What do you think of the state of entrepreneurship in the country currently?
I think it's a reflection of the state of the country. It's in shambles. People have romanticized the idea of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is tough. It's painful. It's even worse when you don't have the supporting structures like we don't have in SA, And we mustn't run away from the fact that infrastructurally and structurally, Black people, young people, women, people with disabilities have been structurally excluded from the mainstream economy. And therefore, to be an entrepreneur in this country means that you have to work 3 to 4 times harder just to get access, And so I think, the heart of South Africans are in the right place. We've got some amazing hustlers and amazing success stories, but we don't have enough. And I think it's a function of a failed system that hasn't understood the importance of supporting entrepreneurs through, especially the early stages of building a business.
Why raise your hand and say, I want to participate in making my country better? Why did you guys start Rise Mzansi, and what is Rise Mzansi?
I realized that no matter how much I worked in corporate, I can go and earn a decent salary. I've got the privilege of a great education, but I'm still a citizen of this country, and I can't run away from the crime, from the load shedding, from, having to support my siblings and my extended family because they don't have jobs. It became important that I must solve for the environmental status of things, We can live in gated communities, but at some point you drive on a public road and you are then susceptible to the crime stats that we see on a daily basis. So I thought, let me reverse this. Maybe let me go and try to make a contribution to fix the country such that when I do build wealth, I can spend it in a functional country. I'm definitely not keen to leave the country. I love this place. It's got beautiful people, great food, and amazing energy. I don't see myself living elsewhere. And therefore, I want to be able to work hard and spend my money and enjoy life in South Africa with my family. Rise Mzansi is a political party that will be contesting elections in 2024. And it is important to state that up front because contesting for power is part of the journey of accessing and leveraging the state in order to deal with some of the challenges that I highlighted earlier. So we are a political party that will contest, but more importantly, we are a political movement and an alternative. What does that mean? A political movement is defined by stakeholders and people who sit outside of the political space. Civil society, communities, the international community as well. And so a movement is when people have a common purpose and a belief and a set of values that guide them towards a certain outcome. And that's why we define ourselves as a people's movement. Insofar as an alternative is concerned, our hypothesis is that the political establishment is broken. And we say that because it's not just about the ANC, it's the entire system. The political culture of South Africa is broken. And where that shows itself is the number of voters who are registered to vote, eligible to vote, who don't show up at the polls. 14 million South Africans are eligible to vote but choose to opt out. They've looked at the menu, Brasbu, and they've said, nah, I don't see it, And in a democracy that has to be healthy, you want the voting population to be able to contribute and participate in democracy so that it continues to be vibrant, to be robust, and as many people can contribute to the shaping of the thinking around where the country should go. So when you've got 14 million people who are eligible to vote, but opt to rather go and have a braai and some drinks instead of going to the polls, you have a problem. They've looked at the incumbent, they've looked at the opposition parties, and they've said, we reject the proposition. And so Rise Mzansi is entering as an alternative to redefine the political space, to be a champion in shaping a new political culture that's oriented around the people and not around the power politics and transactional relationships in politics. And the last thing I'd add to that is, the incumbent has abdicated their responsibility as the center of South African life. You know, a political party is not just a vehicle for voting. It shapes the intellectual, cultural, emotional, and spiritual sense of a country. And Rise Mzansi for the next 30 years wants to be at the center of that vacuum that has been created. We want to be able to be the soul of the nation and therefore impact business, civil society, and everybody who sees themselves as a patriot.
Without having to mess up your mic and our audio for our audiences, I'd like for you to zip down your waistcoat. What are they called? Waistcoat, right? I want people to see that. And let's talk about that. 2024 is our 1994.
Yeah. 1994 was a huge moment in South Africa's trajectory. For many years, centuries of colonialism and the harsh, violent reality of apartheid, we then came to a moment, a T-junction, where we said enough was enough.
Yeah.
And various players then contributed to making sure that change was possible. It was a moment of hope, a moment of inspiration, a moment of a joint understanding of the type of country that we want to build. People, young and old, stood in snaking lines, waiting for an opportunity to have a say about the kind of government they want. They were sick and tired of a violent, systemic, discriminative government that just didn't give dignity to the majority of the people of this country, of which many of them are black. And so that moment when we got political freedom was a crucial one. Fast forward to 2024, 29 years later, or 30 years later next year, we have nothing to show for it. People are poorer, people are more destitute, people are suffering from hunger, we live in a more violent country. So what was the democracy and the freedom for if by and large the majority of the people of this country have not benefited or enjoyed the fruits of this democracy that we speak about? The Constitution as a document, as a philosophy, captures beautifully the dreams of the South African people. But you ask Nkhono wako, Snawane or someone from Matatiele, and you say, please give me a sense of whether or not this Constitution has served you. And the answer by and large is no. And that's what we must respond to. We must reclaim the 1994 dream. We must reclaim the 1994 promise, which is captured in the preamble of the Constitution. And now we must make sure we deliver on that because our people have waited for too long. And now people like you and me, Sbu, must step into the arena and be counted in making sure that we can improve the lives of many.
So you've coined the hashtag 2024 is our 1994.
Yeah.
Where you guys are saying you are reimagining South Africa 2.0. What does that mean? South Africa 2.0.
Yeah, it's the new SA, man. Knowing what we know and knowing how we live in a perpetual polycrisis. And by polycrisis, it means that we're just moving from crisis to crisis. Everywhere you look, crisis, in fact, from the litter to the crime stats to power outages to water. And that is the antithesis, or at least the premise by which we come to exist. So new South Africa for us is a safe South Africa, Sbu. It is a prosperous South Africa. It is an equal South Africa, and it's a united South Africa, and we must achieve it in one generation. We must not make the mistake of dreaming in perpetuity. Our people want food now. Our people want safety now. They want jobs now. And therefore, the speed within which we must move in order to start unlocking and unblocking some of these challenges has to be immediate. And so that's our vision statement. We want to build the South Africa you and I deserve, which is safe, which is prosperous, which is equal and united in one generation.
I think it's one of the UAE sheikhs or one of the UAE leaders who said that. Like, why must my people wait for 20 years? Like, I want everything to happen now. I want my people to have this now. I want this and that to be sorted in the UAE right now. And I was like, wow, that's admirable.
In our lifetime.
Yeah.
In our lifetime. I'm 39 years old now. In 30 years' time, I'll be 69 years old, right? I want to live in that country. It's not just about my kids. It's important that, our generational mission becomes fulfilled. But I want to live in that country. I want to be able to walk in clean streets, see happy South Africans engaging and enjoying this beautiful country of ours. It mustn't happen when we're on the other side. We can work. And research has shown that there are countries that have been able to turn themselves around in a 20 to 30-year cycle. And we must commit ourselves to making that change because it's possible. And South Africans are amazing people. Why shouldn't we, hold ourselves up to that high standard?
Some South Africans are asking, do we need more political parties? And what different, so they say, do we need more political parties? Why can't black people just all come together? And you have just decided as young people to say, we're going to start our own political party, but what differentiates you from the rest of the other political parties? In the political landscape, South Africans have seen COPE come, South Africans have seen the likes of Abo Azapo and all the other political parties that are in the scene. But are we really on the ground getting the real help that we deserve?
The birth of Rise was not like a few people sitting in a corner and deciding, we want to start a political party.
Yeah.
Communities from around the country and even civil society banded together and asked themselves the question. Civil society has been carrying the challenges of South Africa for the 30 years. So where government fails, the likes of a gift of the giver stepped in, the likes of an equal education on pit latrines and, those inhumane toilets step in. So civil society has been running a parallel state to try and deal with the failures of the current government. And therefore, when they came together and we came together and said, guys, over and above the work of civil society, we still need a political vehicle that must contest power and shape the state such that it starts to deal with some of the challenges that we can see. And therefore, that's how, the movement was born. It was born by the people convening and saying, yes, we will do other things like community programs and grow civil society, but we do need a political vehicle. And that's how Rise Mzansi was birthed.
Okay.
And we continue to talk about, the people being the key differentiator. It sounds obvious, but let me share this with you when you would know in all the businesses and organizations you've built. The reason why businesses and organizations become successful are the people. It's the people that come with the ideas. It's the ones that hustle for the resources. It's the ones that build a chemistry between how an idea gets conceptualized and how it gets delivered. Your success has been on the basis of working with incredible people to then deliver organizational success. And that's what differentiates us. You read my profile earlier on. I've got my own track record. I have worked many years in trying to build massive organizations that can deal with complexity. My colleagues and comrades in my organization, Rise Mzansi, have done the same. And when we come together, that's where the difference comes. We are not the ANC, we are not the EFF, we are not the DA, because we are not them. And we actually are not a breakaway, we are not a faction, we don't come from a place of, so we must go start somewhere. We are a fresh, clean canvas where people are saying, let's do something different. Let's bring skills from all sectors of society and build something that fundamentally responds to the issues of today, that is relevant and is future fit to shape the next 30 years of South African life. And that is what is exciting about Rise Mzansi. The people are different.
I like what you're talking about, the next 30 years, and you're saying it for the second time. Recently, you guys had a policy convention at the Constitutional Hill. And as you're talking about this 30 years, what are your key focus areas? What policies are we talking about? Some other political parties talk about cardinal pillars.
Yeah.
Some other, what are you offering South Africa?
Yeah. So we had the People's Convention. It was a 3-day experience where we had, people from across the country. The delegates, I think, racked up to about 1,500 over that period. And it was our policy conference. So we were using that as a thought space. But in parallel to that, we had what we call the People's Festival.
Okay.
Because we understood that, there's people who want to engage in politics but don't want to sit in a room with tables and, the spaces where people use big English. Some people just want to organize around creativity and joy and they want to contribute, but they find politics in the traditional sense inaccessible. But at the end, what we came out with was the People's Declaration.
People's Declaration.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. And the People's Declaration is almost the Freedom Charter 2.0. It sets out some key priority areas that define the politics of Rise Mzansi. And overall, there's 6 key pillars. The first is the individual and family.
Okay.
The second is community life and well-being. The third is governance and the state. The fourth is the economy. The fifth is climate change and the climate crisis. And the sixth is nation building and the South African identity. Those are the ones we chose to focus on. And under each one of those, we had breakaway sessions where people were able to rotate and make a contribution based on key questions, ideas, concepts that then start to develop what our proposition for the country is. And the reason we did that, Smooth, is if you think about politics, nothing is a standalone. It's all intersectional. If you think about individual and family life and how the family institution has been desecrated by, the apartheid state and has not been nurtured by this government of the day, you start to realize how family life is at the core an institution in itself that has been broken down and must be rebuilt based on our ideas of what we want a modern family to be like. When you think about family and well-being, you start to think about education. You start to think about single-parent homes. You start to think about kids and their safety. You start to think about ECD, early childhood development. You talk about food and hunger and how people in this country are constantly going to bed hungry, etc., etc. So we try to build our policy themes in an intersectional manner rather than saying, okay, we're going to talk about energy or we're going to talk about water. You know what I mean? That's great, but how does it affect the life of Smu on a daily basis? How does it affect the life of Ntabiseng on a daily basis? And that's why we built those themes the way that we did.
I didn't hear you guys talk about land.
Land is part of climate. Land is part of governance. Land is part of economy. Land is part of family. Land is part of all of that, right? When you live on a property, that land belongs to someone. When you want to grow a food garden to look after your family, that land belongs to someone. When you talk about state power and the state balance sheet, we've got lots of land that's owned by the government, but it's not optimized, it's not utilized in a way that serves the people. When you talk about economy, you've got an agricultural sector, but you've got people who go to bed hungry. It doesn't make sense that we're a net exporter of food, but people in the Eastern Cape are killing a woman in the Eastern Cape, 2 women consecutively, killed 3 of their kids and then killed themselves. Right? How does that happen in a country where you've got land, where you've got the ability to drive agriculture, and yet it doesn't make sense. And so that's why when you talk about land, we must look at it across the elements and see to what extent each one of those connects to land as a concept. It's a huge, huge issue. It speaks about identity. It speaks about belonging, national identity and nationhood. You can't talk about nationhood and the South African identity without talking about land, because of dispossession, of injustice, of how violently many black people and their land that was taken away from them. We can't build a united country, as we talked about in our vision statement, when we haven't spoken about the dispossession that the people of this country have experienced. And so if we're going to talk about trauma and we're going to talk about a healing nation, let land be part of the discussion.
Do you personally have any aspirations of becoming a president of the country, number one? And if you were to be a president, what are the first 3 things you would do?
President, not, but influential contributor to shaping the country, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't see why, we can't be so confident that we can sit around tables and say it's our time to shape the agenda of the country.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's many young professionals who run multi-billion rand organizations, but they're not given the space to run a municipality. It blows my mind, that we don't give people that access to be able to help in that way. But to answer your question, Sbu, I don't want to be president, at least right now. I have my role to play as the Gauteng convener, which is to focus on this province and to make sure that Rise Mzansi offers a proposition that reshapes and changes Gauteng as the center of South African life. And so we will have programs and a strategy to respond to that. We have our national leader, Songezo Zibi, who is also from the world of corporate, but has also served in civil society and the like. And I'd like to believe at some point he will be a presidential candidate that will then offer the country, a view of what that would look like. But maybe to answer your second question, what is the focus and priority? I would answer it in this way. The first thing is, I think food hunger is an important thing. I think we underestimate just how hungry people are. We did the People's Manifesto process of going and doing town halls for 6 months, just listening, not even making any propositions, speaking at town halls, connecting with communities and getting a sense of what are people talking about and what is bothering them. And consistently, food hunger came up. But in a hall of people, 200, 300 people, you ask them, when was your last meal? They're like, I probably had like 4 slices of bread yesterday morning. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're now trying to engage and talk about building a healthy democracy to people who haven't eaten for over 24 hours. But when we also talk about food hunger, we think that it's what you put in your mouth. It's not just that. Think about the process and the ecosystem that defines how a plate of food arrives at your table. It's an entire network of people, of processes, of organizations that enable that. And so one of the things that I would say is priority is solving for food hunger. And the intersections that come with that is the economy, is land, is water, it's community life, it's spatial injustice. All of those things are crucial to solving the food hunger crisis in South Africa. So that's the first. The second is we live in one of the most unsafe countries in the world. A little nyana, small country at the southern tip of Africa is one of the most unsafe places in the world to live. And that breaks my heart. I've got a daughter who is 7 years old. I've got a wife, I've got a mother, I've got an aunt. They cannot walk outside of our gate without feeling like they can be a victim of crime. The levels of GBV in this country are war zone-like. It's unacceptable and we should not accept it. So crime and safety is, I think, an important part for solving for this country. We've got too many illegal firearms walking around the streets. The cash in transit highest day. But fella, in the middle of the day, they block highways, and it's like, God. And what we say as South Africans, South Africa, we're living in a movie. And that's the end of activism. No. We cannot accept that. We must live in a safer country where our children can play, where our wives and daughters can run in the morning and feel healthy, where you and I can go to an event without feeling like we're going to be hijacked or shot at a corner or at a street light, So safety is definitely up there. And then number 3, we have to solve for the economy. We must build a growing economy, an inclusive economy, a sustainable economy that absorbs those who have been systemically kicked out and locked out of it. And the census came out. The numbers are there. The median age of a South African or South Africa is 28. So what that means is that 50% of South Africans are younger than the age of 28, right? We're a young nation, but a young nation of unemployed people, uninspired people, people who haven't been looked after. And we haven't used that demographic dividend effectively. And what we are doing, we're cultivating anarchy and civil unrest because batho habaji, abana msebetsi. And msebetsi, outside of solving for the basics of shelter, food, safety, etc., it's about dignity. The dignity of waking up in the morning and knowing that you have something meaningful to do with your life and a contribution to make, and moving closer to your life purpose. That is what work is about, meaningful work. And at the moment, more than 30% of this country, a third, 1 in 3 people in this country don't have work and are likely not to be able to have work. 2 in 3 young people in this country are unemployed. It's a travesty. 30 years later, no, guys, it's not. It can't happen. And we must resist the temptation of using apartheid and colonialism as a baseline for success. One of my colleagues, Mandla Isaacs, has this anecdote. He says, when you compare yourself with apartheid and colonialism, anything you do seems like progress. That's not the standard we should be using. The National Development Plan that was crafted by this government, they set their own KPIs. But experts, and they said, what do you want to do with the economy, jobs, etc., etc. And they wrote their own performance card, right? And they said by 2030, we're going to have achieved these things. One of them was that on an annual basis, the economy must grow by 5.4%, right? Throughout the life of the NDP, we have not even come close to that growth rate. As a matter of fact, today we're probably sitting on 0% growth, if I remember the stats correctly. So if you have a business and you have an organization and you set yourself targets and you set your employees targets and they fail consistently to hit those targets, what do? You fire them. You fire them, you say, thanks for coming. We cannot move forward on the basis of you having written your own performance contract and you still can't hit your own targets. And that's what the elections next year must be about. It's a performance management instrument. We are looking at our country and we're looking at all the dimensions. Out of, I think it's 8 different areas of performance. They've achieved 1 out of the 8.
And what is it?
I don't even know. I think it's labor, something to do with labor.
Okay.
But all of the other ones, economic growth, employment, all of those, they are not even close to hitting the target. And therefore, we must fire this government. We must fire it, and we must bring new answers and new leaders who are going to be committed to making sure that we accelerate towards hitting those targets, because it matters. The politics of personal matters. You know, just now, Nikiduzi, waiting for this session to happen, a young lady at one of the restaurants, a young lady walked in and she was carrying in a bag a plastic sleeve with her CV, right? She went to the lady at the reception, she gave her the CV, she removed the paper out of the plastic sleeve and gave it to her. I had a brief conversation with her and she was like, the cost of looking for work is impossible because I must leave my house, catch 2 taxis to get here, catch 2 taxis to go back. I must go print the CV. I must buy a plastic sleeve. At some point, I want to eat something. How is it that the cost of getting a job is so high in this country? And when I had a conversation with her, she was like, you know, if I was to be able to solve for work, I'll be able to change my life, the life of my family. We have far too many young women, young men walking around, not being able to even opt in to try and look for work, because looking for work is so expensive. The reason she kept the plastic sleeve is because she doesn't want to go spend 1 more rand recycling and buying new plastic sleeves. Plastic sleeve! That's how bad things are. So when we talk about politics as like these big concepts and corruption is important, we must deal with it. But micro-corruption is a lot more toxic. Having young women having to sleep and have sex with people in order to access work is an indictment on this country, and it happens everywhere. Paying for jobs is an indictment on this country, and it happens everywhere. That is the corruption that people talk about. Not the ESCOMs and the Transnet and so on. It's about what are the politics of the day. When you step out of your house, Sbu, what are the politics that affect you? The litter and the dirt that we see. The geographic and spatial injustice of the fact that Black people have to live so far from places of work, and we have a dysfunctional CBD, which means that you don't have a transition space anymore where people can work, live, and play. It's madness, you know? If we do like Orange Farm or from Val, and we say it's a more Sentinel, Melrose Arc, Otsuaka 4, Okena mo taxiing, you spend 60 to 70% of your income on transport alone. You don't get to see your family. You leave early, you come back late, and therefore you can't participate in effective family life. And then we wonder why our kids turn to drugs and alcohol to try and burn time, because there's no facilities and communities for them to play sports. There's no opportunities for them, like you and I, we're creativepreneurs, for them to express themselves and to convert that creative energy possibly into something that makes money. But let's obviously they're going to turn to crime. And therefore we deal with crime and drug abuse as the after effect, when the cause is the fact that we have failed political leadership that doesn't understand the importance of accelerating spatial justice so that you can shorten the trips of why Mtswaki can move from the Val to the CBD and work there and then go home on time to spend time with her partner and with her kids to build a successful family institution. These are the things that matter. The politics of today, the politics of the people, the politics that is personal.
Congratulations, you've been the national spokesperson for Rise Mzansi all along. And I think as of today, you are the Gauteng provincial convener.
Correct.
What does that mean, and how do your structures look like? Are you a Gauteng-based organization? Are you a national-based organization? And what are your structures looking like?
Yeah, so in contesting national elections, we have a national footprint. We've got a national leader in Songezo Zibi. And then we've got provincial structures. So we've got what we call the National Leadership Collective, which essentially is the executive council of the organization, and the national spokesperson was part of that. And then we've got what we call PLCs, or provincial leadership collectives.
Okay.
So you've got chairpersons or conveners of each province, and they've got teams that then organize for the provinces. So we have a full national footprint, and we have got visibility in all key metros, major towns, etc. Insofar as my role is concerned, initially I was the national spokesperson to build the voice and the communications platform for Rise Mzansi.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a voice, you must engage in the politics and the tensions that define the political program. But I was also responsible for the brand and the experience of how people connect with Rise Mzansi. Now that that baseline has been set, we can hand that over as a functional role and find somebody to run that. Now it's about making sure we go and deal with some of the issues that I've highlighted, and hence why I've transitioned to run Gauteng as the Rise convener. And it's really also about being on the ground. You can't sit in lofty offices having interviews and that's all you do. The issues that are affecting people on a daily basis are happening ko strateng, ko dikoneng. And so we must be there, being there to listen, to understand, and then to also share our thoughts around how we want to shape the country that we deserve.
And talking about being on the ground, how do young people or communities reach out to Rise Mzansi? Where do they find you? Where do they ask more questions? Where do they get to interact with your organization?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I think it's important that young people realize that this is their time. One of the things we say is that it's our time, it's our turn, but if we do nothing, it's our fault. For far too long, we've kind of given power to the establishment, and they've obviously just, taken us for granted. They don't really care. They go and they do what they want and leave us behind, and they use our votes to, achieve their own personal and selfish outcomes. So it's important that young people kind of decide to take their seat at the table. It's our country. We're the biggest shareholder of South Africa Pty Limited. And so we must sit at the table and say, this is the agenda that we want to define, and these are the people we want to lead us. And if you fail, we will take you out of power because you are costing us. La Costa. We're going to be alive for another 40 to 50 years. And if you keep running this country into the ground, it means that I continue to live and build a family in a country that is dysfunctional. And I reject that as a reality. So that's what young people must do. And we must be organized, we must be energized, and we must enter into the arena. But as a youthful energy, political organization, you can find us on all digital platforms. We are a digitally savvy and accessible organization. So all social media platforms, our website is www.risemzansi.org. And we convene digitally in all manner of ways, but you can't take away the importance of just connecting with people on a face-to-face basis. Rebatu, we come from far, and the African experience has always been about lechotla. Redula together, and we try to navigate and deal with these issues on an ongoing basis. But yeah, that's how we are built. We will govern this country one day because we also, from a representation point of view, I think if you look at our team, our eldest person, Songezo, is in his early 40s. Like I said, I'm 39. Our youngest National Leadership Collective member, Lawrence Manaka, who's our head of, or at least who runs our students chapter and youth, is 21. And he gets to sit at the table and determine the strategy and the tactics and the operations of the organization. So at Rise Mzansi, young people find full expression. Women find full expression. Our national chair, Vuisa Ramakgopa, is a highly competent and capable professional woman. And as the national chair, she basically runs the entire organization, which has got over 50,000 volunteers, has got, a team of more than 80 people. And so, women must also be given the space to take us forward. For far too long, we have, kept them on the side and created leagues for them. There's no leagues at Rise Mzansi. There's Rise Mzansi. Young people mustn't talk in the corner there and come and tell us. They must be at the table shaping the agenda. Women mustn't be talking in the corner. They must be at the table shaping the agenda. And so we don't have leagues. We don't have membership. We don't have branches. We're a modern organization that is reflective of the type of politics that must be in place in order to respond to how the world has changed.
Funding. Who funds Rise Mzansi?
We're funded by a broad group of people. It's got, high net worth individuals because politics and democracy is expensive. You have to build machinery, you have to build infrastructure. So we do have high net worth individuals from across South Africa who support us, but we also have got young professionals, we've got organizations, we've got even Bonkgono ba re fang di 50 randa le di 100 randa. So it's a full catalog of South Africans who are interested in the work of Rise, who want to put their shoulder to the wheel. We've got a debit order function where on a monthly basis, people are able to give, between 200 Rand to 2,000 Rand to 3,000 Rand. We meet people where they are. You contribute what you can. But what's important for us is about community action. The money is important because you need capital in order to generate, the outcomes. But what's important is don't give us money and think you don't have a responsibility to do work. You must go and solve for your community's problems and get involved.
The big conversation right now, even in politics, a lot of people are concerned about who funds a certain organization and is an organization pre-captured, or I don't know what he called it, and it's, for lack of a better word, like a captured organization even before it starts, because people are like, is this organization representative of us?
Yeah.
And then other people are like, we're a multi-racial organization that is representative of all South Africans. Yeah. And what is your case?
We are a representative organization, and I think what you want to look out for is look at the policies of an organization. See how they respond to the moments of tension, and then you will see their politics. Because if indeed the tail is wagging the dog, you will see how funders are shaping the political mandate of a political organization. We've issued a number of press statements. So if people are worried or wondering what is our position on certain things, they can go and check what our politics are about. You want to read the People's Declaration? Go and read it, and it will tell you where our emphasis and our energy and culture is. The other thing we must talk about funding is there's a huge challenge that we have with party political funding. We need more transparency, but the counter to that is we need to create an environment where people don't get victimized for funding party politics.
Yeah.
What happens is, because of the establishment, you've created this energy where when someone says, I fund Rise Mzansi, all of a sudden their business starts to get impacted. All of a sudden their personal life starts to get impacted. And so what happens is we are happy to disclose, but the people that support us are not, because the environments within which they work does not incentivize them to be transparent. And so we must change that culture. If Tabiso wants to sponsor Rise Mzansi, it mustn't be that, we're going to cut your contracts or we're going to make it more difficult for you to access your inputs of production because you've said you support a specific political party. We must rise the level of consciousness and maturity in the political arena. It's important that we start to become adults about politics in this country. Patronage has killed the politics of this country. But by MSC, the tender, even if they're not in business, someone doesn't even own a manufacturing plant, but they won't even talk against the incumbent because they are scared. What if one day I do have a company and I want a contract and I said something wrong about these guys, therefore they're not going to give me work? That's not the politics of maturity, and we must move beyond that. And that's when you will start to see funding start to change and democracy start to change. We'll stop victimizing people who make choices, adult choices about where they want this country to go.
As we are wrapping it up, 2 last questions. Why should I vote for Rise Mzansi? Speak to them. There's a camera.
Bakait, we are living in a crisis. You just have to step outside of your door and look at the country that you are inheriting. It's falling apart. All the key elements of your life are being unmet by a selfish, uncaring political establishment. And the only way that you can make your voice heard is at the polls next year. Go register to vote, make sure you're correctly registered, and go and make your choice on that ballot box. If you're eligible to vote and you stay away from the polls, what you're doing is just making sure that the status quo prevails. It's time for change, and we've got a very short window within which to change. The next time, South Africans, you get an opportunity to make that change is in 2029. Imagine what this country can be like in 2029 if we don't effect that change. Things will be so broken that you can't even retrieve and save some of the things that have gone wrong. So it's important that we go out there and make our voices heard. Mzansi is offering the South African people a fresh, new reset moment where we are saying we're not about the politics of the past. It's important to acknowledge the past because some of the freedoms that we enjoy today were delivered by people who died for this moment. But let's not disgrace them. Let's not forget that this democracy that requires us to be adults asks for us to step into the arena. So go and make your X next year, 2024. Mzansi is there as a platform and as a canvas for you to paint your future. We want to build that safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa, but we can't do it by ourselves. We need you to be a part of the journey. So walk with us. We are asking you, no more can we see this country go down the doldrums. It's just not okay.
Congratulations to you guys for not just sitting back and watching Mzansi go down the drain. You're doing something about it. And you're involving young people, and you formed an organization, a structured organization for people to participate in. And, just sacrificing your time and fighting for the country. Congratulations. Proud of you, my brother.
Thank you, my king. Appreciate you. Of course.
I didn't ask you about your family. How many kids do you have, and how's family life?
Family life is good. I've got 2 kids, a girl and a boy. Pleasant. My young one is going through his terrible twos, so that's
Oh, the other one is 2.
Yeah, he's 2.
I heard you saying the other one is 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the boy is going through his journey, which is tough to deal with, but boys can be boys. Like I said, I'm privileged and blessed to be able to put food on the table and have an opportunity to serve my purpose. And that makes me happy, which means that I'm a functional husband and a happy father, and I wish that for so many other men and black men out there. We don't talk enough about the silencing of the black man experience. It's painful. It's really, really painful that so many young black men live a life of poverty and not being able to contribute and live their life purpose. So family life is good. And I pray to God that he will keep me and my family so we can continue to serve this beautiful country.
Nice one. Nobody made this small.
Interesting, Spuda, the first gift that my girlfriend and now wife gave me was your album, and because I loved the song Remember When It Rained.
Oh, Wireless Volume 1.
2006, she was studying in Pietermaritzburg. She bought me the CD and got it shipped to Cape Town where I was finishing my final year and surprised me. And I put that CD in my car, and that song brought tears to my eyes because of what you did with it as an instrument of sending a message. And fast forward, we are now 10 years married. We've been, together for more than 16, 17 years. And that was one of the inflection points of our relationship. So you can be happy that you contributed to my marriage.
Congratulations, guys.
Thanks, man.
And thank you to the madam, because they always say it's about the life partner that you choose.
Absolutely.
The type of person that you become, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we want to acknowledge madam. At least nice in the whole country. And I can only imagine also, the toll that it takes on your family. Yeah. So that's why I'm just acknowledging your wife as well.
Yeah.
But I just tell her, Raleboga.
I will do.
It really does mean a lot. So I've just put out some music now. So I'm getting some young people saying, so you are really a DJ. We just thought you just missed the more fire. Yeah. You know what I say to them?
Yeah.
I'm like, you were born in my music.
I swear.
He's just parking. He's just giving you guys proof for the young guys in their 20s. He's just giving you proof.
This man is a legend. Show some respect. Put some respect in Spoo's name. Yeah.
Love you, bro. Thank you. And just in closing it out, what do you like to say? Your last words to the people.
The hustlers out there, we are all just ordinary people trying to do extraordinary things. That's what Hustlers Corner is about. That's what Rise Mzansi is about. Let's build the institutions that we can be proud of. Let's make sure that the legacies that we carry in our names will ring into eternity. Make sure that you don't sell yourself short. Life is short, but it's the longest thing you'll do. So make it count. Make yourself count. You're worth it. You're worth it.
As go quality quality come Mr. Mrembo. You know the story of Mrembul?
Hey,
Plus it's also it.
hey, sometimes.
Proud of you, bro. Guys, stand up. Don't just sit back and only complain, but do something. This is all of our country. Elections are coming up in a couple of months' time. We're looking forward to conversing with some of our political leaders, young leaders, and just people who are so much in love with this country like we all are. As we're recording this episode, we are wishing not Bafana,
Boka.
the Boka! And I hope they inspire Bafana.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like our Banyana just did. They just did a great job.
Yeah,
you know?
man.
So
Yeah,
it would be really dope to just, see, because I heard, I think I saw a clip of the president speaking to Siakolis.
Yes.
On the phone, and he's saying, I'm flying to France to come lift up that trophy.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really great for the morale of the country.
Yeah, we need to win a bit. We know the winning culture of South Africa has been subdued because we just don't win often enough. We've lost too much too often. We have lost too much too often. And therefore, when we wake up, that sense of a winning culture feels foreign. But when you see the Boka win and you see what winning does for a nation, man, we are capable. We deserve to feel that feeling every weekend because there's winning stories, billboards. This guy's done that. He's built this business. We've solved the water crisis. Unemployment is at a high. We're growing at this percentage growth. We deserve those kind of stories, not always reading babulaile batho guy. This is that. You know what I mean?
Because that's also demoralizing to the society,
depressing.
right?
It's depressing.
Hearing all negative news all the time, bro.
But we gotta build the winning story.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier when you said we have not been doing so well, so much so that we're even using apartheid as a
standard.
Do you know what I mean?
What a terrible baseline.
A yardstick
Yeah.
of success. That's
Yeah.
very bad.
Nah.
We need to up our game and
Big
go
time.
back to that spirit of where we belong. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So the Boka, do your thing, guys.
Go Boka!
Proud of you, Mr. Mrembele.
Thanks, King.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Salute, my king.
I'll see you guys on the next episode. Danko.